It was supposed to be a straightforward road trip. A 65-year-old retired man just driving cross-country from Oregon to Wisconsin, with my daughter's belongings in tow. She had moved a few months ago, and when she did, she left behind a pile of things I'd promised to deliver to her. Clothes, computers, big screen TV, books, a few sentimental pieces, all packed neatly into my car. My old Subaru was packed to the brim, the back seat crammed with boxes, the trunk full, and still, there was something oddly comforting about the packed car, as if I were carrying a piece of her with me. But somewhere around the halfway mark, as I passed through the endless flatlands of Nebraska, something started to feel off. It was hard to put my finger on it at first. There was no one around, no specific car I could see tailing me, but I had this creeping sense that someone was watching. It wasn't just the usual unease you get from being alone on the highway for hours. It felt like something else, something deliberate. At the next rest stop, I noticed a few truckers giving me strange sidelong glances. Normally, truckers are just passing through, like everyone else, but these guys seemed aware of me, like they knew exactly where I was and what I was doing. I dismissed the thought at first. Maybe I was overthinking it, I thought. But as I drove deeper into Nebraska, that nagging sensation only grew stronger. The sense that I was being tracked. Every few miles it seemed like there were more signs of it. More truckers, more cars suddenly behind me, sticking too close to my bumper. And then, when I passed a road sign for Seward County, it hit me. The truckers weren't just passing me, they were reporting my whereabouts. It was like they were keeping tabs on me, talking to someone. Someone who had a vested interest in knowing where I was and when. I shook my head. It was absurd. But then, as I pulled into a rest stop in Seward County, it happened. A sheriff's cruiser slid in behind me. 2 officers emerged. They didn't say hello. They didn't explain themselves. One of them, tall and with a sharp look in his eyes, approached my driver's side window while the other went around to the rear of the car. Officer. "Good afternoon, sir. Do you know why we pulled you over?" I blinked, confused. "No, officer, I don't." "Officer, we're pulling you over for a standard search. We've got reports of drug activity in this area, and your vehicle fits the profile." I glanced down at my Oregon license plates. I'm just driving across the country, heading to Wisconsin to deliver my daughter's things. The officer looked me over. An old man with a mountain of boxes in his car. Hardly a criminal mastermind. "Yeah, well, you're going to have to step out of the vehicle." "Wait, what? You're going to search my car? I haven't done anything wrong. We'll see about that." They were accusing me of smuggling drugs simply because of my Oregon plates. They claimed they could smell cannabis, though there was nothing in my car to justify that suspicion. Nothing at all. I was pulled out of the car, and I watched as they started rifling through my things, tossing my carefully packed boxes onto the pavement. One of the officers came over to me, his face twisted in suspicion. He said, "We've got a K9 unit here, ready to sniff out anything you might be hiding." My heart sank. I had nothing to hide, but they didn't care. They kept searching. Then, as if things couldn't get worse, one of the officers, in the middle of tearing apart my toothpaste tube, knocked the cap off, spilling a small amount onto his hand. He froze, eyes widening in panic. His hand trembled. He asked, Is this drugs?" He muttered, staring at the mess on his hand, as though the very toothpaste might be a deadly substance. I watched him, unsure of whether to laugh or cry. This was insane. I was a retired man, out on the road, just trying to get some closure with my daughter. And here I was, detained in some remote part of Nebraska, being treated like a criminal. The other officer stood up and radioed something in, his voice low and urgent. After what seemed like an eternity, they finally decided to let me go. They never brought out the K9, and they never apologized for the mess they'd made of my car. They just handed me my keys and said I was free to go. I quickly shoved my things back into the car, trying to make some semblance of order, though my mind was still reeling. I went to the rest stop bathroom to collect myself, to calm my shaking hands. When I came out, the officers were gone, vanished as quickly as they had arrived. I didn't waste any time. I got back into my car and rerouted my trip. There was no way I was staying in Nebraska another minute. I'd had enough. I took the quickest path I could find, cutting through Iowa and then into Minnesota, finally reaching Wisconsin where I hoped to find some peace. Away from the watchful eyes of those Nebraska lawmen and the strange, suffocating fear that had followed me across the plains. It wasn't the journey I had planned, but I was finally at my destination, and my daughter was waiting.